Hey, everybody. Before we begin, we want to congratulate Guillaume Barnaby. I hope I said your name right. You are our January winner of a toy from Vivotex. Please email us, email awty@gmail.com, and we can get information from you and find out which toy you want and all that kind of stuff. So yay, congratulations. And it's not too late. Still lots of giveaways to go every month. You can subscribe here below or on Instagram. Go and follow us on Instagram at Are We There Yet IG. And yeah, you'll be entered to win the drawing for a toy. Congrats, Guillaume. Yay! All right, drum roll. All right. Hello. Welcome to episode 22 of Are We There Yet? Through the years. We're going to talk about green flags today. I'm your host, Susan Ruth.
And I'm your host, Mara Adelman. And we are two humans who are going to have the real conversations and raise those questions we all have about where is there when it comes to dating, relationships, and sex.
We're all figuring it out together.
Oh, are we ever? So like Susan pointed out, we're going to talk about green flags today, all of the things you want to watch for when you first start dating somebody, moving through dating somebody, and the kind of signs that are the opposite of the red flags. So hopefully you've also dated people with a lot of these green flags. Where has your there been, Susan?
I'm like, I've been working on my first short film directorial debut. So more information about that will come in weeks to come. But yeah, it's taking up mucho of my time, and it's great. I'm really excited. So
it's so fun to have these projects. I can't wait to see.
Yeah. By the way, the facility next door is having another one of their loud music days. So apologies if you could hear it, but it's great because this morning some guy walked by, and most of the workers are Filipino. So they have very heavy accents, and it's great. They're singing at the top of their lungs to like Mariah Carey and and it's just they're so happy to be singing and having a job, I guess, for all of us who are struggling to find work these days, So
maybe we all end up in an old folks home where everybody is singing all the time.
Where everybody's singing and being happy and loving, and yeah, they are really the people that work there are definitely really excellent. It's just that's gotta be such a hard job. And I don't want to get off topic, but shout out to all the elder care facility workers, because that cannot be easy, and they do it with a sing song in there, every day. So
they're happy about it.
Yeah, I
love that.
Yeah. How's your there, my dear?
Well, I have a couple. One of them I just discovered yesterday, which is pretty exciting. On episode 12, Artificial Means, we all took a quiz about what our best sex toy would be. And I finally ordered mine. It's called the Satisfier Pro, and it satisfies, let's just say.
It works?
Oh yeah, I have harder orgasms, and I'm getting older. So just like men, there's less blood flow to the clitoris. And I haven't had orgasms where I feel like tingling in my legs all the way down to my toes in a long time. This toy is amazing.
Oh, and it's a sucky thing?
Yeah, it's just like it's got a little circle, and it's like a sucking air feeling.
And you put that right on the clitoris?
Yeah, it almost feels a little more like oral sex than like a vibrator toy. It's kind of fun. And so everybody should go back and listen to episode 12, Artificial Means, and take the quiz.
How much did that toy cost?
It was like $30, super cheap.
Not bad.
Yeah, it was an affordable one too, and it does the job. But more importantly, I'm also dating somebody who's doing the job, and it goes right along with this green flag thing. So I had gone on a video date with somebody, and then we started hanging out, and he is showing so many green flags that I just wanted to share that it is possible to have those things happen. Although it's a bit of a complicated dating scenario, which I'll go into more in the future. So it's hard to know, is it because neither of us are pushing for serious, and it's easier for him to give lots of green flags and easier for me to lean back and relax? It would be too hard to tease out that piece of it. But he is so good at doing this. Like some examples: reaching out before the date the next day. Hey, just checking in, being funny, looking forward to seeing you. Texting the next day after the date. Or right away. That was fun. That was hot. That was cool. Being invited to their house really quick so you can make sure that they're sane and normal.
Although that could also be a red flag.
If it's too soon. I think this is like day 3 or so. I got to go check out his place.
You go there and on the couch, there's some duct tape. You might want to sort of skedaddle.
The duct tape waiting for you to be duct taped to the couch? Yes, you
Or
should
something.
out.
No, my ether collection. Yeah. Good idea.
Luckily, when I was there, I saw no red flags. It was all green flags. The biggest thing that this person does is he's always sharing his whys. He really knows himself. So like, hey, I'm sorry that I only have 3 hours today, but I'm really tired. And so I'm not going to be much good to you. Like sets it up ahead of time. So the expectation's clear.
Yes. Love that.
Love that. Makes it not like a personal thing. Like, oh, I only have 3 hours for you. It's like, oh, hey, I'm really exhausted this week. Really knows himself well. First time we had sex comment was, hey, can you have an orgasm from penetration alone? And I was like, a man who knows his sexual, what's the right word? Like he knows that not all women can orgasm without with penetration alone, right? So it was So all of that, asks ahead, makes plans. He takes the quizzes. This is the highest green flag. I sent him a couple quizzes as I'm getting ready for things, and he'll take them and get right back to me. And he's all excited to learn more about himself. And so I think anybody who's starting to date somebody, it's kind of a good litmus test. Like, hey, will you take this quiz? I just took it, and so that we can get to know each other and ourselves better. That would be
don't take it personally if people are really busy. It's tricky. It's so hard to navigate this stuff because I think it's great that he says to you, hey, I don't have bandwidth right now. I've got a lot going on. Yeah. Again, I've said this in every episode. My biggest peeve is when people they just don't answer. And so you're left going, well, so what? And if you would just say super busy or thumbs up or, something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just going to assume you're dead and send flowers to your mother because I don't know what else to do.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about that whole piece about like the reach and response cycle. I'm okay now with like a 12-hour. I'm giving people more grace. Everybody's busy.
Oh, yeah.
But if too much time goes by, it just feels like you're not actually communicating. And we'll get to that in a bit. There's one about like being engaged in the relationship is a huge green flag. And both of you being kind of equally engaged.
Well, let's get into it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So the first thing that I always want people to remember, because it works for me, is my 3 C's. And so,
Cunty. No,
cunty. Don't be cunty. When you first start dating somebody, you want to check in with yourself to find out if it's the right fit, and then start looking for green flags. And so the 4 C's are chemistry, compatibility, connection, and capability. I added capability after dating too many people where I felt like they had all these things. The chemistry, like that first second when you go, ooh la la, and the compatibility where you're like, wow, we really just get each other. Like the way we communicate, the way we do, the connection, like your cells know each other. Well, none of that matters if they're not capable and they don't have these green flags. And so you want to start there. Do those 4 things line up? If they do, then the next place you're looking into like, are all of these. So number 1, do they listen well? That's a hard one. Everybody's busy. You and I do sometimes. We're both ADD. We're hearing each other, but we're multitasking. But you want somebody to put in effort. Do they hear you? Do they understand you? Are they asking thoughtful questions? Are they trying to get to know you? Right? It's not always easy for people.
Sometimes I say to someone, hey, what I just explained to you of how I'm feeling, can you say it back to me? Just so that I know that you know where I'm coming from.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a really good one, especially if you're talking about more like detailed stuff or relationship driven stuff versus just getting to know each other. Having people repeat back is like golden. Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised how often people will put words in your mouth and things like that. So it is important to clarify. And
you and I have had misunderstandings like that because we think we're speaking the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
I call that like the movie in your head. Everybody needs to make sure your movies are lining up, right?
Yeah,
like sure. I might think the movie is this, but you think the movie's that. And so make sure that you guys are talking the same language. And feel free, once we get into all these green flags, remember, if you're not getting these green flags, have the conversation. Hey, I don't feel like we're on the same page. and then just back up. I was always great about protesting and freaking out, when in actuality, give people the energy they're giving you. If they're not giving you a lot of energy, back up and give them less energy. Go get busy with the rest of your life, right? But you also want somebody, so number 2 would be somebody that is comfortable talking about their feelings. And so making sure that they know themselves well enough, they're emotionally aware, they know their own emotions and where they're coming from, so that they can say to you, I'm feeling really exhausted, or I have this emotional thing going on. And then it's not a personal thing when they're not as available, right?
Mm-hmm. I was watching some neurodivergent relationship stuff on TikTok, and this one couple talked about this because one in the couple, the man, was not good at explaining his feelings, and so they had certain words that meant feelings. So he could say, you know, baked potato, football, hamster, and then they both knew what all that meant. Or
like code words.
I'm sure that's not what it was. You know what I mean? So I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, code words are great. Like, remember we talked about the pause before, like, hey, I need a pause because I need a minute to go gather my thoughts. So that just having code words like, I need a minute, and you guys decide that means the person needs to go be somewhere for an hour. Code words are great for that.
Mm-hmm. And to know that if the person does need to go check out for a while, that they're the ones that get to come back and say, I'm ready now. You can't badger someone into being ready to talk.
No, you cannot. And actually, that's a little further down the line, but making sure you have space. We'll get to that one. Yeah, the space thing. We talk about this on every episode, I think, right?
No offense to badgers everywhere. They're an adorable species.
They are adorable, but I'm not so cute when I'm badgery. I have been badgery before, and it is not sexy. So yeah, not when you're a person. They have high self-awareness, which goes, they know their feelings, but they're also aware of where it's coming from. And they're able to explain to you like their emotions, behaviors, patterns. They're able to tell you their triggers. Like, hey,
that's a big one.
Yeah, because if somebody else doesn't even know what their triggers are, how are they supposed to tell you that, like, hey, when you do this, I feel this? If they can't even piece where it's coming from. So you'll notice that a lot of the green flags come down to know thyself. Mm-hmm. And so when people know themselves, they can share themselves. And I think it really makes a difference as far as being able to send out the green flags. Yeah. They treat you well and they treat others well. Mm-hmm. So you watch them with the waiter, or you watch them with other people, and you know that they are going to treat everybody equally as well.
The waiter's a big one, or the waitress. That is a huge service workers. The way they are treated by a date or a significant is major information. Yeah.
Major. I actually think it's great to go and do a lot of different things with people just to watch them in different environments, because the little cracks coming through, and you're like, the
representatives can only hold back the law for so long.
And then the floods come through.
They're in the Star Wars trash compactor going, oh shit, I can't do it.
I'm stuck. I don't know. I feel like, stability is important. So pretty much stability would be things like, you can trust that they're consistent on how they treat you, and that their approach is always consistent despite various situations in life. Yeah. So stable, right? Able to, you know that you can count on them, feel safe, and that it's always going to be kind of a similar response. The person I'm dating right now is going through some family stuff, and so I'm getting a little bit of a different response, but I still am, it doesn't feel red flaggy. It just feels like, okay, you got to go deal with your stuff, and then we'll come back and revisit that. So the more somebody gives green flags, the less us anxious, especially anxious attachment style people, can go, he actually told me I was like the least neediest person he'd ever dated, and I laughed so hard. I don't know, I've been told I've been needy before. I said, it's because you're giving green flags that I get to be less needy.
And also the way the relationship is set up, you know that it's not going to a place of permanence. Probably not more fun. So it's a very low risk relationship for you, and so you don't have to have that.
It's great
that built-in trauma. Yeah, it's great practice.
It's great practice because also it's great practice just seeing all the green flags coming from him, because it's like we learn to accept maybe scraps when we shouldn't be accepting scraps. But no offense, the whole world's kind of giving out scraps right now. We're in the swipe culture and the move fast. and it feels like everybody's got 20 things going on. I don't want scraps. I want a lot of green flags. So
Yeah,
I think
our brains have been rewired to only handle certain amounts of time.
Yeah. So they're easy to be around. They aren't fussy and cranky and 7 sleepy dwarves. I don't know, sleepy, cranky.
Although, again, I have to keep saying that it's important. You have to allow people to have moments.
Oh yeah.
This isn't an overreaching, overlying thing. It's like if they were constantly mad at you or constantly depressed or that's one thing. But if they're like, oh, I'm having kind of a bad day today, everyone is entitled to that.
100%. And in fact, you're not showing very many green flags if you're not a little supportive about that, right? Like the whole point is like the give and take. This is just more like every time you're around them, you're not feeling like it's easy. Well, then that's not a green flag. When most of the time you're around them, it feels like, oh, this just feels nice. Okay,
yeah.
Green flag. And they take active steps towards becoming better, which we all are trying to do with this podcast, with learning, with the quizzes. How do you become better? And so essentially, if they can take feedback without getting super defensive, responsibility for their actions, and they're constantly trying to learn from the relationship, green flag. 100%.
Yeah.
And they're willing to be vulnerable. That's a hard one for men.
It's a hard one for humans. I don't think men are I know plenty of women that have issues with being vulnerable. I mean, that's just human beings, human nature.
It is, but we've talked a lot about it on here. Like when we were little and we cried, our daddies came and kissed our knees and said, sorry for the boo-boo. And when boys cry, a lot of times it was, get up, quit crying. I feel like they were at a disadvantage as far as the vulnerability category from the very beginning. For sure. A lot of situations. So then I'm finding myself as I get older and learn more about all of this is to give a little more understanding to that. Like when there's a little bit of vulnerability coming, I realize that that's a lot for people to give sometimes.
Yeah, but also we were very lucky that we had daddies that would kiss our boo-boos, and there are a lot of people out there whose daddies created the boo-boos. So again, it's like, well, if 1 in 3, women, and I think it's like 1 in 5, it may even be less, or more than 1 in 4 for girls and boys being abused as children. That's just sets up patterns of not being okay with vulnerability, because you're growing up in a world where you have only yourself to protect yourself. And it makes it very difficult to go have healthy relationships as a grown-up. You have to work extra hard for that.
Yeah, I hear that. I do. We are lucky that we had those kind of growing up relationships. But encouraging your partner to be vulnerable, super green flag. If you can explain, try to exude safety.
Yeah.
I'm safe. It's safe. You can talk to me. It's safe.
And ask questions. What makes you feel safe? What makes you feel like you are more able to be vulnerable? It's okay to ask those kinds of questions, and the person may not have an answer, and that's okay too. It's a step. It's a step towards something every day, and every once in a while there'll be a step back.
But that's how it should be. What you just said to me, when there's a lot of green flags and you're both on the same page, it's step forward, slight step back, step forward, step forward. So that goes into the one about somewhere in here. We'll get to it. Oh, they're engaged in the relationship. Mm-hmm. And so you're both making plans and texting and showing active interest and nurturing the relationship and making sure that you're both on the same page, because it takes active effort to be in a relationship, or to even date somebody in a fashion that moves that from dating into something more, right?
Yeah.
So
everything is a choice. Wow, they're really rocking out next door. Apologies.
So funny, I can't hear it.
Okay, good.
Now I want to hear it. I'm like,
I think it's air supply, but
they're like,
they listen to like the 70s and 80s roller skating hits. It's great. It's
My,
hilarious.
my childhood. You're speaking my childhood.
But if I have to hear, look at these eyes, I never knew what better, it's every day they play that one for sure.
So you're hearing this every day, all the time.
All the time.
It's kind of mood lifting. I like it. Kind of hard to be sad when all the old people are dancing.
Yeah, well, all the workers are singing for sure.
And the workers are singing. So you also want to make sure that they have empathy. Some people, especially narcissists, we talked about that when we talked about the toxic relationships, are less empathetic. And so they're not going to really feel your feelings, which is the definition of empathy. If you come to them sad and they're kind of like, oh, anyway, did I tell you about, so you want somebody who's empathetic, can be there for you in your moments. And I literally just saw something 2 days ago. I'm driving my dogs to the park and I look over and there's a girl sitting on a bench and there's a guy on his knees in front of her. And I was like, oh, he's going to propose at the park. And then I do a loop looking for parking and I look back over and I realize she's sobbing. Oh. He's on his knees. And when I loop back around, I see that he's sitting next to her and he's giving her this huge hug and like trying to make it all better. And I was like, I want that. I get that emotions are harder for some people, but I want that. Somebody who's like, I'm sorry, you're having a rough time.
Yeah.
Empathy, be engaged, right? Mm-hmm. All green flags. And then you want to make sure the relationship is moving at a comfortable pace for both of you. And so at the same time, we both feel good about this, or one of us is moving faster, but we're going to discuss that. Or one of us is moving slower. We're going to talk about that, along with the fact that nobody's getting upset about needing to have the conversation. It is totally okay to say, I think I might like you a little more than I should. Where are you at with all of this? Okay, then, let's slow this down because I didn't realize that I was going to have these kind of feelings. Anything along those lines, right? Have you ever had to have those kind of talks with people?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a decent communicator in relationships now. I think when I was a younger person, not so much, because you didn't want to rock the boat or didn't want anybody you didn't want to cause a fight. You didn't want to, you just
I think it goes back to that. But do you feel like as an older person, you're able to be more vulnerable than you were when you were younger?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because to me, that feels like it fits that vulnerability category too, where it's like, hey, I think I'm a little more invested than you. That's a super vulnerable conversation.
Mm-hmm. So I also, as we've discussed in prior episodes, I do not run in guns a-blazing. I wouldn't say it's distress. I would say it's more of experience has taught me about the representative. And so I'm willing to stick around and see what's going on and see how long the representative is there, or if there is a representative or if the actual person is being who they say they are. People always tell you who they are, though.
Eventually they're going to show you who they are.
Yeah.
For good or bad.
We have to be, we don't have to, but it's a good choice perhaps to make that for our own well-being, that when you do feel or sense that the red flag, that you acknowledge it and don't think that, oh, well, it'll get better just because you're so wanting to be in something or you're scared to be alone. And conversely, the green flag, that when you're getting a lot of green flags, to not say to yourself, oh, this is too good to be true, or it might be, but that pessimism, you have to keep that in check as well.
Susan's teaching me to be slightly pessimistic. I like it. Because I tend to go in guns a-blazing and trust everybody. But I wrote this down and you will appreciate. Matthew Hussey, our favorite little guy there, he was doing a video and he said, you should constantly have this in your head. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, I'm a show me, don't tell me. Just show me. Stop telling me all these things and show me.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Essentially, for people like me, who's like always jumping in, romanticizer, I want it to be all this way. That whole comment, the we'll see, has totally changed my brain already. Every time, no matter what now with life, I'm like, we'll see. Because the only thing we have is this moment right now. We'll see what happens in the next 5 seconds, right?
Yeah. And we're all unfolding all the time, but also be wary if somebody says, oh gosh, I feel like I don't know all these things about you. Then maybe that person needs to check themselves and say, well, have you asked? Or do you always talk about yourself? Or are you always thinking it about you? There are certain things where
It needs to
You
be.
could get gaslit into having the other person say, well, you don't open up, you're not vulnerable. And you have to have also an opportunity to open up and be vulnerable. And if the other person is only talking about themselves and how something relates back to them.
Yes. Then how are you supposed to be vulnerable? But again, we talked about it. We all do this. We all do it. Because we're all deep down 2-year-olds who are only focused on ourselves. I mean, I try very hard to like, how are you? How is with everybody? But I think as a society, we're just bouncing a lot. I don't know. But you said they need to know you, but I go back to know thyself. If you are dating somebody who knows themselves, then they're going to be able to do all of this easily is what it feels like, at least in dating this person. The other one is they accommodate your needs. So things like taking the time to understand what you might need in a relationship versus just what they need in a relationship. And so making sure, and then accommodating that. Oh, it looks like you might want a little more quality time together. Let's make that happen.
Like with the love languages and things.
Yeah, that would be a good example of accommodating needs, right? Like, oh, I didn't realize that your love languages is acts of service, but I'm going to accommodate that for you because I like where this is moving, and I'm going to start doing some acts of service for you. So
I have a new love language. It's actually the vegan gluten-free donuts from Sidecar Donuts.
Oh, yum. I'm trying to lower my sugar content in the new year, but that sounds pretty amazing, Susan.
They're so good.
It sounds so good. And then going back to the ones, they know what they want. They're consistently kind and they know what they want. And so again, clarity. They're like, I want to be in a committed relationship, or I just want to date, or I want to have exclusive sex with you, but I want to have the option to date other people. People need to know what they want moving into things so that they can be clear with you.
And stick to it. Don't say, I want this, this, and this. Make an agreement with your partner.
Yeah.
Even if it's a low-key partner, and then go outside of what that decision that was made together, because you're going to find that you're not going to last if you disrespect that agreement. If you want to renegotiate the agreement, then come and say, let's renegotiate this agreement. But yeah, it's not a good idea to just do things based on whatever it is you're feeling in a moment.
I like that idea of renegotiating, because I think relationships are a constant compromise and a constant renegotiation.
I had a boyfriend once where every 3 months we would have work reviews like you do at the office, and we would sit down and I think I've talked about this before, and we'd sit down and review where we were in terms of each other and ourselves and what we, what's your goal? We kept it funny and on the light side, but it actually was helpful.
I think having a normal check-in time is a great idea, because it goes back to
neutral ground too. Do it in neutral ground.
Oh, like away from the house, on a park bench or what? Remember, when you're walking side by side, it's easier for male-bodied people to focus sometimes. They don't do as well as we do with the direct, talk to me, Susan.
with the light shining down.
You and I do pretty well with that, but for
the water dripping on their head, they don't do well with that.
So the whole, remember, sitting side by side or walking side by side, car rides and walks are a great time to have those kind of conversations. I think that was Esther. Oh yeah, remember Esther Perel, lay down next to each other.
Say to your significant other, want to go walkies? Want to go for a car ride?
Yeah. Every time they're like, oh God, she wants to have another talk. Oh, here we go. It's talk time. But that goes back to the biggest one, which is you both have your own lives. We talk about this on almost every single episode in some form or fashion.
Yeah, it's very important.
Space. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The biggest reason it's important is, number one, how stale does a relationship get when you're only with each other and you have nothing to report back? Nothing else fun happened. I want to be in the kind of relationship where I'm like, oh, this guy totally flirted with me at the market. And that's a fun conversation in your partnership, right? Versus you're always together, so nothing else ever happens to you because you're always together.
Yeah. And the good kind of, oh, this person flirted with me, not that I'm using this as a weapon to make you pay attention to me or love me more. Isn't it so interesting, though, that anything could be used in green flag versus red flag? It's all about intention is everything.
Intention is everything. And no, you should never weaponize that. To me, that's kind of the sexy conversation.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like, ooh.
To me, you want to hear about it?
I had one of my boyfriends prior, he was a very handsome man. And I remember we were on a trip together and we were sitting at the bar and this woman across the bar was just, I fucking him to death, you know? And I was thinking that was the funny thing. He went over to the bathroom and I turned, I looked at her, I was like, I know, right? You know, because it's like, yeah, I get it. And he took it in stride. It didn't mean anything to him, you know, but
right.
It's funny.
I like. So
you feel good, like, oh, I picked pretty well this time.
Wait, I missed it. Picked pretty well.
When you pick somebody that someone else thinks is attractive, you're like, oh, look at me, I picked well. Then of course the narrator says 6 months later, she did not pick well. But in the moment, you're like, yeah.
In the moment,
yeah.
My picker is getting less broken. I think.
Yeah, totally.
Doing the podcast helps. I think just getting older helps.
Yeah.
But back to both having your own lives. The biggest reason I think is that, what was the term they used? Oh, you don't want to give up your journey of self-discovery, right? Just because you're in a we, you still need to be I's. And so at least some of that needs to occur alone. Like I can't do a lot of self-discovery with myself when I'm with people. That happens alone. And so having that time alone when you're in a relationship to learn about yourself and come back and converse about it is super important.
One of my favorite books of all time, The Alchemist, he talks about the personal legend. We all have a personal legend that we all have a journey that we're on. And, you know, you have to be careful not to have it get hiccuped by another person.
Yeah, I always think of it as like trains on a track. Don't let somebody derail you from your life goal, your plans, obviously when you get in a couple, some of those things have to lessen because we only have 24 hours in a day, but you should still be moving towards those things, even in partnership. So at the end of the day, relationships should feel good. So you pointed out like red flag, green flag. Any of these things could almost be turned around, right? But your gut does not turn around. If you're with this person and you just feel good and at peace, and it feels like things are mostly moving well, and when they're not, you can communicate about it, that is green flag heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about it. Absolutely. Yeah.
No. So then the other thing that goes back to that whole piece is that we've talked about it before, but the Gottmans, I love them. They have the Research Institute, they're psychologists, that happy couples and unhappy couples, the part that sets them apart is having only one negative to every 5 positive interactions. And so again, going back to this person I'm dating, all these green flags and all these things have been very positive. He's slightly off his game this week. Well, then it doesn't really affect you because you've had 5 positives. And so also with green flags is you want to make sure that you're feeling more filled up than not, right?
Yeah. Let her go.
And if they're, right, fill me up. And if you're not being responsive, well, then you know what? Go find somebody who is. And so we linked to a whole bunch of reading down below, types of green flags, videos to watch. Am I too needy? How come you shouldn't text somebody your ex happy birthday? There's a whole bunch of stuff on here. 9 huge green flags that you should watch for. And at the bottom, we took a quiz. I couldn't actually find a good quiz on this one. It was more of like a checklist. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the link, it gives you a checklist of like 56 different things.
There are a lot of them.
There was a lot, but it was kind of fun because I went through and did it with the guy I'm dating now, somebody I dated recently, and how I feel like I give myself off to people. And the person I'm dating now got 52 green flags out of 50. I thought that was pretty cool. I got the same 52 out of 56. Both of the reasons would be listen more, because both of us talk a lot, him and I. So we both had a couple dings for that. And then somebody I dated in the past was like more like a 46 out of 56. But I remember thinking it still wasn't enough green flags for me because it wasn't that 5 positive to 1 negative. And I just always felt kind of discombobulated. And so take a look at that down below and try to figure out where are you at in your current relationship? Where have you been in past relationships? And what should it look like? How cool would it be to find somebody where most of those are checked? Right? Did you have a lot of good check marks or not so many on there?
Past relationships, lots of red flags, and I had the relationships that were green flags until they were red flags, which happens too. I think it's a really good list to look at too, to look at yourself. Self-awareness is key in all things. So sit down with it and have a real conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
How am I in relationship? How do I fall in these?
Yeah.
Am I the problem? Is it me?
We're always part of the problem. It takes two to tango. So, but that's a good point. I did that for myself on this one. I was like, oh, these are the areas I need to improve on. For me, it was trust a little bit more and listen a little better. And on that same thing, there's also a red flag one. So that's a good point. People should go do it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything starts with ourselves, really.
Know thyself is the most important part, and then be in relationship. But sometimes you have to be in relationship to learn yourself. So
that's true too. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I think
and you know what? It's also good with friendships and family.
Yes. All of the above. Any relationship that you have, pretty much everything that we talk about is like sex, dating, relationships, but a lot of it can be put into like normal life. And so hopefully we're giving good information for that stuff. I don't have much more to add other than everybody should keep subscribing and follow us on Instagram, and we'll put you in for a Vibratex toy. And
keep doing the giveaway. Keep subscribing. Tell all your friends to subscribe. When you do, you're entered automatically to win one of the beautiful Vibratex toys that they sent us, and we are happy to share those with you. And yeah, great job, Mara. That was a lot of really good information. So
thank you. Hopefully everybody will be looking for green flags. And remember, if you're not feeling green flags, have the conversation and step back a little if it's not working.
It's not easy being green, in the immortal words of my favorite frog.
Wait, Kermit the Frog? It's not easy being green. I love Kermit. We grew up in the same time frame. So whenever you have references, I'm like, oh, she's talking about Kermit.
Kermit the Frog.
Because we grew up with lots of Sesame Street.
Oh, I think the Sesame Street's still going on. It's still, yeah, it's still going strong. I don't think they do Electric Company anymore, but they definitely have Sesame Street.
I love all of the old stuff. I can't help it. I feel like the old world was better than the new world, but that's just my
I love you, Mara. Everybody subscribe and email us if you have questions, if you have recommendations.
Yes.
We're here for you to hear what you have to say.
We did get a couple comments that people are better if they're a little bit shorter. I think this one was a little bit shorter. I feel like we got through all the attachment styles and all the stuff that was like large dose like stuff. And so I think moving forward, they'll all be a little bit more free flowing and shorter for people's attention. I know people are busy.
Yeah, it'll be what it is. You can always stop and then come back too. I mean, there's no rule that you have to watch the whole thing all at once.
No, but we're getting lots of feedback about just how nice it is that people are talking candidly about these things. So speaking of, in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about all things erotica. So photography and literature and pictures. And that'll be a fun talk. You can do that in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was good to see your face. I love you so much.
I love you. Stay connected, everybody. Be safe.
Have fun filmmaking. Bye.